We are at Sci-Fi Expo in Irving, Texas, talking with Alina Andrei and Mark Edward Lewis, the co-creators of the new webcomic Omega 1, which you can find at omega1comic.com. And this actually started out, Alina, as a pilot for a TV series or a movie, and you converted it. How did that happen?
Actually, we were going to do a web series, and we decided to scratch that and let's write a television show. So we wrote a 1-hour TV pilot that we turned into a 6-season show Bible TV show. And then from there it's like, oh, we gotta have a movie, so we wrote an Origins Omega movie. And then from there, we gotta have a visual medium to sell it, so we decided, let's go comic book. And then from there, we had a motion comic, so we done the full circle of the whole Omega 1 franchise.
So give me a little bit of a breakdown of what the story is. What is Omega 1 about?
Omega 1 is actually a little girl that was discovered in Romania at age 5, that she had amazing abilities, physical abilities, lightning quick speed, reflexes, the whole gamut. And she was brought up in a government syndicate as a she-weapon, as the ultimate James Bond girl. But then she got brainwashed, got stolen, and lives in a post-hacker war society where all the information in the world has been corrupted, and she's a human courier. But she doesn't know she has a past. It's coming back in bits and pieces. The people that Ethos is a government syndicate that trained her for her abilities since she was a little girl. They want her back. But now she's realizing she has a past and a stolen identity, and it's all about set in the future, about 10 years, and it's kind of a spin on the Bourne Ultimatum, but female-driven, with a lot of aliens and heroes thrown in. So it's a sci-fi soup of comic wonders, really.
Mark, the conversion to webcomic, when you guys, because I see here there's an actual print copy of the first edition. You've got the webcomic. There's an app as well. What was involved when you started discussing converting this into a digital format? What was your process for that? How much of a challenge was it to do that, or was that the plan from the very beginning?
It was never the plan from the beginning. As Alina said, we were going to do webisodes, and then it became a television series, and then it became a comic book, and then it became a motion comic. And so our artist, Emmanuel Xerxavier, who's in the Philippines, he made this amazing comic for us, but we had no planning or pre-planning around, oh, we're going to make a motion comic. So they're just flat panes, that we had to sit there and painstakingly cut out all of the players, the props, separate the backgrounds, and actually he was pretty strongly against us doing that to his panes. He's like, well, this is my panes, and why would you change them? But we convinced him, and when he saw the final product, because Alina and I have worked in Hollywood for years, and I've been doing post-production for 22 years, it was a no-brainer to put original music, get all of our best friends who are actors to do voiceover talent, and sound design and all this. So the audio part was kind of a slam dunk, but it was the visual thing, moving these characters around and really taking on what DC and Marvel are doing in the world of motion comics. But instead of taking it as we're going to design a motion comic from the beginning, we're taking a legitimate, already done 2D comic and making it into something motion, and that's not happening very often. So it was really tough. We've streamlined the process now that we're working on issue 3 and issue 4, and then ultimately the graphic novel. But it's a lot of fun. The results are really, really good for the people who are seeing it. They're like, wow, this is really amazing, because it isn't just a promo. This is the comic, and we're telling the story as though it were a movie, cutting out the actual comic book characters and the panes.
Now, what's different between the motion comic, if they just download a movie that's a motion comic, as opposed to what you guys have in terms of an iOS app that is the comic? What's the difference between the two?
Our app designer, Marty McDonough, he devised this ingenious app that's not just, oh, look, a movie, we watch it, well, that was great. But for the first time on Apple, we have the ability to have a special edition DVD kind of app where there are commentaries. Not just watch the movie. You have the commentaries with Alina and I, with a manual, multiple versions, so that you can really get into not only the story, but how we did it, pane by pane, moment by moment. We also have the comic itself in a format rather that you can just scroll through in iOS format. We also have character breakdowns of, never before seen things about the characters that people in the know want to know, and those build on every app. There's 2 apps, issue 1 and issue 2, We're in production on 3 and 4 right now, but each character breakdown per app gets more and more in-depth, so that by the time we get to issue 4, it'll be a huge dossier on every character. One of the things that's super exciting for us about new iOS 5, since we're talking tech, is they, for the first time, allow us to have more than one audio stream on the same video. In the old iOS, what we had to do is literally upload the movie to the app for every commentary, and it made the app monstrous. In fact, our iPad app is over 500 megabytes, which the iPad app is beautiful, but it's humongous. But now with the new updates, it'll be much, much smaller, and it'll play much, much quicker.
Alina, you've got a background in martial arts. You've done stunts, and was featured as Agent Gemini on the Knight Rider reboot. What was your approach on this when you were looking at this? What motivated you to create a character like Omega One? Is this just you're wanting to find more lead actress work, or you're seeing a void somewhere? Because a lot of people here this weekend are talking about Joss Whedon because the Firefly guys are here, and they're talking about how Joss is always writing really strong female characters. Is that something that you've noticed a need for in the entertainment industry? Is why you did this, or was there something else behind it?
Well, I noticed there was a severe lack of actual real deal female heroines. I've stunt up a lot of amazing actresses that are really sweet, but to quite be honest, there's a Jackie Chan, there's an Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's a Sylvester Stallone. There hasn't been one American female heroine that's been the real deal. And when I noticed the Xena phenomenon, how much that exploded, and then now the Wonder Woman phenomenon, they're trying to find a Wonder Woman pilot a movie, I kept going in for roles for action females, and they kept wanting something that was not what I was offering. And in Europe, my type is what they're looking for, but in America, they have this twisted view of how you have to be demure and be in a box. And I noticed all the lead females never really had any martial arts background, any sword fighting background. So I wanted to be the first real deal American actress who is a martial artist, a sword fighter, and who's a co-creator of her own series. It was a driven need because I realized they were not calling me for lead roles, and I was going to make my own lead role happen with this series. And I know there's a need for it because now I've seen a lot of people loving all the lead females in, like Firefly and Bionic Woman. I saw these amazing series, but they got canned one after another because they're making it so cheesy. There's a cheesiness factor. You can tell these skinny 90-pound actresses have never thrown a punch in their life. No one's going to believe it. The women of today's America are not going to tune in to see a 90-pound girl try to fight. I'm 135 pounds of solid muscle, of hips, of curves. I'm a real woman who's got a real body and has a real ability, and I believe that is what's going to sell nowadays, because in a time of where economy of people, they're not just going to pay for anything anymore. They're going to pay for something that is going to motivate them and something that is believable. And we created Omega One. She just has a 3D personality like me. She can be vulnerable, she can be funny, she can be sad, she can be tough, but she can be sexy, and that's what a real woman is. A real woman is not just pouty and going to throw a kick. A real woman has a lot of emotions, and we wanted to make sure we got that 51% of the female audience that's in America, and this is why we wanted to do this. We wanted to show something that was from a real woman with a real career and a life and has a martial arts background, is like the real deal of all the expendable movies and all the hero movies of our time. We wanted to start a new precedent and a new trend, and Mark and I, teamed up and started creating a bunch of projects that led to this. And
now, did this start as an action project first, and then the science fiction components were brought in later, or did this start as sci-fi just from the very beginning with the hacker wars and?
Combination of both. Like, he has the techie side, I have the creative character plot side, and he has plot as well. So we wanted to do something that was sci-fi, that was action, that was female driven, that would showcase my abilities, and that would be something that is not out there. That's totally different than what's been out there in recent years. There's so many law and procedural shows now that I think TV is so boring. They're trying to reboot Charlie's Angels, that bomb. They reboot Bionic Woman, that bomb. They even started Wonder Woman pilot. And they're not using the European mentality of making it dark, edgy, real. This is what this is. It's a dark, edgy project that incorporates a female that's empowered in herself and her body and loves who she is. And I don't see many of that on TV anymore. So
if I can speak to how it all started. Alina and I have done a lot of projects together, lots of short films. We've worked on feature films together. We've actually been in front of camera together, doing sword work together. But one day we were on the phone, and I don't know where you were, but I was in my apartment, and we're thinking, we need to create something that shows off what Alina is. And it needs to be action, it needs to be empowering of the feminine energy, not just, taking advantage of it. And it needs to be something that everybody would like to see. Something that had a lot of tech value, something that was in the future. And we sat down at our favorite creative spot, which is always, always, always Denny's. And we sat at Denny's and we hammered out the first few scenes, the first few arcs of Omega 1. And it has taken, we started in 2007, so it's been 5 years we've been working on this.
I think that was longer.
I think it's 2007. And that is how it started. Literally on a phone conversation going, we're not getting the kinds of things that are going to show her off or show my abilities off. Let's make it. And we've done this more than once. We did it with Mad Maxine. That's been a success. But now with Omega 1, this is kind of how we're doing it now.
Now, did you approach any of the comic publishers like DC or Marvel, or you just decided from the get-go this was going to be an independent thing?
I don't want to talk out of school, but if we were to have approached those people, Marvel, even Dark Horse, our intent is to turn this into a television series. But had we done that, they would have bought us out and we'd be out.
Right.
So although we could have gotten a great distribution, we want to retain our rights if we can until we get to that bargaining table. To have gone with them would have meant no. And to be honest, this comic, how it's laid out, the kind of story it is, the intensity of the story, the depth of the characters, it's not just bubblegum Marvel or DC. It might be a Dark Horse comic, but again, their agreement's pretty stiff.
Sure. Okay, well, the comic is Omega 1. You can find it at omega1comic.com. Alina Andrei, Mark Edward Lewis, thank you very much for your time today. Good luck with the comic book and future projects. We'll see it on TV soon, I hope.
Yes, we will.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.